the year.
Of Billy Miller.
Good job, guys. Thank you for your help. We are on chapter 5, page 210. We only have a little bit left to go. This is the last chapter. We are going to 229. If I think about it, I can figure out the difference between 210 and 229. Over here, 210. And I'm going to go all the way to 229. I can go, erase that little. I can go by ones. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I start at 210, I can go all the way to 229. Or I can go in little jumps. Who knows 210 plus 10? If you had a hundreds chart, it was a huge hundreds chart, and it went all the way down, what would it be, Messiah?
220.
If I went to 210 plus 10, please don't tell South School teachers I'm doing this because this is like 4th grade work. Shh. 210 plus 10 is 220. Now I only have to go to 229. How much more is my jump from 220 to 229? Laura, if I do 220 and I go plus 10, I will be at 230. That's one more too many. I can do that, and then I have to jump back one. That's one way to do it. Peyton. 9. Is that what you were going to say, Messiah? Yes. 220 to 229 is plus 9. Girls and boys, ladies and gentlemen, everybody in the year of Billy Miller, how many more pages do I have left to read of this book? 10 plus 9 is the space between 210 and 229. Cameron, I have 10 plus 9, 19 pages left to read before the year of Billy Miller is in 3rd grade or out of school for 2nd grade. And I don't know what I'm going to do. I need another book. Before we do that, though, let's find out what happens in Chapter 5 of Part 4, Mother. And if you recall on Friday, what happened? He was going to memorize his poem and not tell anybody. And he was practicing in front of his mannequin. His mannequin, that cello with the 4 arms that Daddy made. All right, let's read. Before they left for the show, they must be ready for the show, Billy sneaked into Sal's room to look for the pearl he had given her months earlier. He knew she kept a shoebox of her favorite things under the bed. He figured that would be a good place to check first. He found it. The pearl was there in the shoebox among seashells, pebbles, and Sal's new favorite thing, her collection of little erasers at the shape of animals. And he rubbed the pearl against his shirt, slipped it into his front pants pocket. He needed all the luck he could get. He'd return it after the show. So these are the little animals that she's collecting these days. Do you have your poem? Mama asked before they left the house. Billy held up a copy for her to see. He had folded it into quarters. I hope you know how much I love it, she said. It's a great poem. Thanks, said Billy. Papa helped me write a poem, said Sal. Listen. Roses are red, violets are blue. Billy's a poet, and I am too. Sweet, said Mama. Aren't we original, said Papa. Miss Silver wouldn't allow any roses are red poems, said Billy. They're too easy, he said with authority. Is everyone ready? Asked Papa. He'd filled a backpack with plastic containers of his homemade cookies for the party after the show. He slung the backpack over his shoulder. Onward, he said. Sal was holding Raindrop by her tail. She usually took one of the Drop sisters with her when she was away from home. Billy's family met Ned's family at the corner, and they all walked together. Billy knew how important the show was because they were having it right after dinner on a school night. It felt strange and exciting to be going to school at this time of day. Only 6 more days of school, Ned said gleefully. What does gleefully mean? Only 6 more days of school. Ned said gleefully. Think of how the author wants you to feel about Ned right now. Gleefully. What is gleeful? Gleefully. If you have 6 days of school left, how are you? Show me with your faces. Ah, yes. I see a gleeful face. Happily. Happy. Some kids are. I have one kid in my family who cries because she does not want school to end. If we go back a little bit, Billy said Miss Silver wouldn't allow any roses or red poems. They're too easy, he said with authority. So he's saying it very boss-like, like a boss would talk to his workers. So you can see how the mood changes when Billy talks to Sal and when Ned talks to the friends. The mood is a little different, yes. 6 more days, said Billy. 6 more days, said Papa, echoing, shaking his head. Where did the year go? Billy and Ned swung their arms dramatically, lifted their knees high, and jutted their chins. They marched and chanted through the still, heavy air. 6 more days, 6 more days. The air in the auditorium was heavy, but it was not still. It was electric. At least that's the way it felt to Billy. Parents, brothers, sisters, grandparents, aunts, uncles, neighbors, friends filled the room. People were talking and fanning themselves. Little kids were chasing up and down the aisle and climbing on the seats. Eruptions of laughter came and went in waves. Girls and boys, that sounds very gleeful. Miss Silver had saved seats in the front rows for the room 2 poets and their special person. Each reserved seats had a student's or a guest's name taped to it. The students and the guests would be sitting in the order in which they would appear on stage. It reminds me of the recitals we do, where we sit in order in the chairs. To signal the start of the show, Miss Silver sounded her gong. And everyone found their places. Silence descended upon the auditorium like a spell. and Billy sat between Mama and Emma's grandmother. When the curtain opened, revealing the backdrop, Miss Silver swept her arms out towards it, and the audience applauded. Room 2 presents We Are Family, said Miss Silver. Our celebration of poetry and those we love. Miss Silver stood at the corner of the stage. A small microphone was clipped to her dress. The big microphone was at the center of the stage, gleaming and waiting. Our first poet will be Grace Cotter, Miss Silver announced. Her special guest is her Uncle Zach. Next up will be Jamaica Taylor. Grace and her uncle mounted the 3 stairs to the stage. As Grace passed in front of Miss Silver handed Grace her copy of her poem. Can you fix yourself? Grace and her uncle walked slowly to the microphone. Jamaica and her father waited against the wall at the bottom of the stairs, ready to go. At first, Grace was too far away from the microphone, but her uncle nudged her. Can you have a seat? Then she ended up sideways, facing him rather than the audience, as she read her poem. When she finished, she was to exit backstage through the hallway and return to her seat. She ran off the stage while the audience was clapping, and so it went. Miss Silver would announce each poet, state who was next, and hand a copy of the poem to the poet on the way to the microphone. So a poet is the author of a poem. Billy had a hard time paying attention to what was happening on the stage. He kept saying the words in his poem in his head. He knew his poem so well. He figured he would be able to say it by heart, which means naturally, from memory, when he was 90. From time to time, Mama looked at Billy and smiled. Before long, Miss Silver said, our next poet is Emma Sparks. Her grandmother, Judy, is her special guest. Following Emma will be Billy Miller. Billy and Mama rose and walked along to the wall, to the corner of the stage. Billy had left his copy of his poem in his seat. He folded and unfolded it so many times it was falling apart. He'd get a new copy from Miss Silver just in case. Billy watched Emma. She walked up the stairs with such confidence. Girls and boys, sit up with such confidence. Yes, shoulders back, chins up high. Whew. She lifted her head and turned it away from Miss Silver. When she glided past her on stage, she didn't take a copy of her poem. She flapped her hands about like a bird as if to say, look at me, of course I memorized my poem. And I don't need to have a copy in case I forget the words, because forgetting the words would be impossible for me. So that's her attitude. That is how she is walking. When she finished, she grinned, a know-it-all grin, and took a deep bow. After a long moments of applause, Billy heard Miss Silver say his name. It was his turn. If Emma could do it, I can do it, he thought as he ascended, which means go up the stairs to the stage. Miss Silver smiled at Billy and offered him a copy of his poem. But he smiled back at her, shook his head, and whispered, I don't need it. And he rubbed Sal's pearl in his pocket one last time as he made his way to the center of the stage. He could sense Mama right behind him. Billy inched up to the microphone. He looked out at the audience, and when he practiced with the microphone, only room 2 kids were watching. Now there seemed to be an ocean of people watching, stretching from wall to wall and fanning back towards the back door. Girls and boys, we are at page 220. We still have 9 more pages to go to the end of the chapter. We are about the middle, and I'm going to stop there for today. We will find out tomorrow what happens to Billy as he reads his poem in front of everybody, an ocean of people. Oceans are big. It must mean a lot of people. The whole auditorium. Does he successfully memorize the poem, or does something happen? Is the pearl good luck, or do we need luck? Dun, dun, dun. Tomorrow we'll find out.